This tank is one of the most anger-inducing vehicles on World of Tanks console that I've played at least, and that is because there are a few factors that the Chi-Ri, the tier 7 Japanese medium tank, of course trying to go down to the STB1 at the minute because hey ho, we haven't actually unlocked it yet, but the Chi-Ri is genuinely just annoying for me to play anyway, because my main problem with it is that yes, it might have a little bit of speed, yes it has quite a powerful gun, yes it does have a decent amount of view range, but it has a gun that is only usable in tier 6 and tier 7 matches, and as soon as you come up against tier 8s, tier 9 vehicles, which you do all of the time, it doesn't work, and that is because we do have absolutely terrible penetration. And although we're going to see a pretty good game in the Chi-Ri in this one, you can see we're playing against tier 6s. So you have 130 damage, it has an autoloader, it's a 3-shot autoloader, each shell will deal 130 damage, which means you can do 390 damage in all 3 shells, so it's a pretty decent amount of damage. And because the entry clip reload of this vehicle is very good as well, in that you have a 1 second between your shells, so 1 second between when you fire all of them, it's pretty good. And so yeah, you can definitely deal quite a lot of damage in a relatively short space of time, but the main problem with it is that just feels a little bit annoying because of the low alpha damage and if you miss, and primarily if you bounce. And if you bounce is one of those things that is very well known to the Chi-Ri, and if you've ever played the Chi-Ri, I think you know what I mean, and that's because this tank has 155 penetration on its standard rounds. Yep, 155. That is basically tier 5 standards right there. So 155 pen means you can't pen things like a Tiger 2, you definitely can't pen things like an E75 from the front, you generally can't even pen it from the side, and as soon as people start angling or they have spaced armor, well, you might as well just go and throw yourself in the bin, to be honest. So yeah, it just is not fun, but hey ho, there's premium rounds in the game. You might be thinking, well, they're gonna have like 200 and something premium pen. No, 186, which is still utter garbage, and it will mean that you have lower penetration than, as we say, probably 99% of tanks in the game as standard ammunition. So your premium is worse than most people's standard ammunition at tier 7, which is, yeah, how do we say, garbage. But with the game that we're in at the minute, of course, on the Hell's Highway, we do have we have managed to pick up nearly 3,000 combined damage, and the Chi-Ri is actually okay when you do get into these matchups. So like we've been saying, it doesn't really enjoy being in those higher tier matchups. But obviously this thing, it plays almost like a very opportunistic. You have to be so opportunistic to get this tank to work and to get it to work well, because if you are kind of waiting around or you miss time some of your shots, etc., then yeah, it doesn't feel too good. But obviously if you can make sure to get yourself into a nice position where people expose themselves, like you saw the overcommitting VK3001P, and then of course we're going for the P43 Biss here, who we managed to track again, get a little bit more assistance, and then of course get a decent amount of damage as well. Now if you can do that all the time, this tank becomes a lot better, but remember, you are not going to be able to do that all the time because premium rounds with 186 penetration. But obviously that isn't everything in the game. Penetration is one major aspect of making a tank actually usable, because you know, when you do come up against a tank and there's genuinely nothing you can do from a perspective of dealing damage to it, it makes it significantly harder, especially when you have the armor that the Chi-Ri has. So it's a very painful experience, I think, for a lot of players to actually play, because of the fact that, yeah, you do have not the greatest of penetration, not the greatest of guns, not the greatest of armor. So although it does have a decent potential to deal damage, which I think is for certain very good because of the damage per minute, but it's just not great. And you can see here we are able to push forward, use the little bit of mobility. You got 42 kilometers an hour to move forward, which is it's fairly decent. I think you can generally get into a nice little position with the speed, so a lot of the time you can outflank opponents, and really you need team support. If you're trying to close off a flank on your own, yeah, this tank is not the way to go. Apparently I don't know what way to go except from driving straight into a water tower, which is yeah, well done. But we managed to pick up 5.2k combined, which is a very good game in the Chiri. It is, yeah, certainly one of the better games that I had in this tank. But don't take this as the standard. Trust me, this tank is a little bit painful. And some people love this tank, and I kind of see why. I have this like love-hate relationship where this tank can be really amazing, but it is also absolutely terrible. And you can see me now going towards someone else who was in my clan apparently, with the Clips clan. Should really get a couple more of those going, since loads of people always ask about it whenever I do the live streams anyway. But moving forward, where are we actually going? Well, I'm going to just try and destroy this kind of house in front of me, because yes, there is 2 out of 3 in the cap circle. We don't want to get capped. So rather than just kind of trying to get there and then go around and take a shot, of course we can use the destructible cover in the cap to be able to actually hit these guys, which is something people apparently just never seem to want to do. But in pushing forward, we do in fact spot the Super Hellcat, who is on the enemy team. And we also manage to deal a little bit of damage to the actual Hellcat. So we pick up a few enemies within this engagement. So we've got 5 enemies taken out in this game, and there's certainly 2 more left. One of them being a Jagdpanzer IV, and the other one also being in his platoon. Now I wonder where they are. You could see earlier they did get spotted up in like J1 and J2 of this game. So we're going to get there, hopefully, at least with a bit of the mobility, and hopefully push forward. But I guess now we can talk about the view range of the tank and the actual spotting capabilities, given that we've done 3.3k combined, or 3.3k actual combined spotting and tracking assist in this game, is that it has a good potential. Now, is it insane? Are you going to be able to remain undetected most of the times? No, but you will certainly be able to get assistance damage when you're playing this tank, and especially because it has that fast reload, you can often like re-track opponents. So you know, you take the tracks off the first time, they use their repair kit, you take it off again, and then they're locked in place then for quite a while. And given that the like actual reload of this tank, when you're reloading the full clip, it's about 10 seconds, something like that. But obviously that comes down depending on how you're setting up your tank. Yeah, it's just one of those things. Now, obviously you're seeing me there going on to the stats page. I probably knew that this was going to be part of a video. So yeah, wiggling to say no, 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 Mrs. Camper in the back over here. We managed to plop a couple rounds into these guys. But obviously, Jagdpanzer IV, pretty dangerous if it's left alive, but we want to make sure that it isn't left alive, so we make a bit of a push towards him. We've got quite a few team supports, or people to at least support us as we're pushing in, and hopefully we can finish this Jagdpanzer IV off. We can take a hit, we can go in, and we can finish that guy off relatively easily. Picking up 3.7k damage, we pick up the top gun with that as well, with 3.2k assists, so we nearly got 7k combined in this game, picking up 6 enemies, 2,483 base XP. Yeah, that is actually pretty crazy, and of course a very good game in the Chiri, and yeah, managing to at least get myself quite a bit further forward to the next vehicle, which is the STA-1, which will be a video at some point coming relatively soon, as we're working our way through. We basically save up a few clips of various different vehicles that we're grinding, and obviously doing all of the reviews that you guys want me to do as well. So yeah, a really fun tank. But we'll jump into the next game, Billy, because that's not everything about the Chiri, and of course we are in a top tier game. So this next gameplay shows you something that is kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I feel like it's a really good representation of how this tank actually plays in the game, other than what you saw in the last game clip. As I'm sure you know, yeah, doing 7k combined in the Chiri is probably not your average experience. But what we're going to do now is try and push over to the top of the map. We can make our way over to like B1 and 2 basically. We want to take this kind of area of the map as it's one of the key free lanes on this map, and then we can decide what we want to do after that, if there's anything that we can do, because sometimes people do push up to B3 and 4 basically, where they can like counter this position here. So we're just going to get ourselves up and ready to go. And of course a lot of people stop here, which is probably the biggest misplay that they do make, because if you stop here you're basically giving the opponents the upper hand on this flank. It's really a defensible position. Once you know that you've lost this side, or that you're losing the side, you go back rather than kind of just giving it up straight away. So that's why I make a push down here, and this is going to at least give me the opportunity to deal a bit of damage and of course stop the opponents from just YOLOing, which is what they will do if you don't contest this area here, because they have all the possibility of moving to like B3, which is, or A3, B3 if that makes sense, which is behind me right now. And if they get there, then they can't be hit from the people in like A4 and 5, and they can basically poke everyone without taking any hits. But we move up into this location. The Chiri actually has a decent amount of gun depression. It has 10 degrees, which allows you to use it on ridge lines, but it is quite a big tank. So when you're trying to poke over a ridge to fire off a few different little shells to deal 390 damage, you can take a considerable amount in return. And yeah, because you have no armor, it is basically every single time that you do poke over a ridge and someone's actually looking at you, you're going to take some damage. Now, the absolutely atrocious aim of myself here, managing to really screw me up. Now, we do go up into this location. My main concern is like G2. People do camp in there, G1. And it is a bit of a pain in the arse, but hopefully no one's actually there. Otherwise, we're going to be taking some horrendous hits. And maybe they are. You can see me looking over there every time. And that's because people do move into G1. And G1, really good defensible position. It is a good counter to this position. I can't complain if anyone's actually moved there. We're just hoping that they haven't, which is never a good thing in World of Tanks when you're having to rely on hoping that your teammates have made misplays. But there you go, the first hit comes in. It is in fact someone camping in G1 now, trying to defend their base. But you can see there we've actually pulled off a decent amount of damage, even considering that we've traded pretty badly. And this is a tier 8 game as well, so it is kind of difficult, especially when you've got all your teammates pushing in and stuff like that, and you can't really support them when you have this sort of gun. Yeah, it feels a little bit lackluster for sure, but when we're pushing in here, I'm hoping we can kind of finish off the last remaining couple of people. Of course, we bounce off of that guy, which allows him to hit us one more time, which is really annoying because it would have been nice to actually finish that guy off straight away. It was auto aim. Maybe I should have aimed 100% in the game, but usually that works. But I guess, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have been so lazy. But, you know, we live and we learn. But with 194 damage left on, or hit points left on our vehicle, yeah, it's not very good indeed. Now, that is the position that happens when people stay in A4 and 5. You see where that Revenant Craft Panther moved up to? That is basically what I was on about, where people push up and then you can't really dig them out unless you YOLO them, which is never a good sign in World of Tanks. But the Panzerjäger then gifts us the enemy or free kill on him, and then we finish him off, and with 1500 actual damage in this game and 1068 assist, it isn't dreadful. We've got a 5 for effect. It is, you know, it's not optimal. We're on no health. We can't trade at the end of the game. That kind of sucks for sure. But what we do here is manage to somehow bounce a shot from the Craft Panther who's over in our base, or coming towards the base, I guess. But we are now in a terrible spot, because not only do we have the Craft Panther over there with the CS52 list, we also have a tank presumably behind us, or potentially behind us, or potentially coming directly from E3 and E4, and essentially coming down the hill into us, so that could be bad. But I decide, you know what, we've got to push one direction, otherwise, yeah, we're not going to do anything in this game. And, yeah, my least favourite tank appears, which happens to be an E25. Yeah, I love E25s getting spotted for the first time in the game. Yeah. Either way, maybe we can get a few shots into the CS52 list as he approaches our cap circle, but unfortunately we don't manage to hit him except from the last shell, which is brilliant. Thank you, game. Either way, we are now probably waiting for the E25 to make his little rat move as he comes in, having been spotted for the first time. Obviously, he's going to try and come in. What I'm aiming for here is a little tracking shot on maybe we could track him again and then... Oh no, damn it, we didn't actually damage the track, and that is because the damage is so low that the module damage that you deal with every single one of these shells means that you can't actually track people very easily, and it will most likely take 2 shells to each track every time they repair it, which means, yeah, you basically can't perma track people unless, you know, unless you've got time. In clutch situations, tracking people is just a pain. So yeah, that was annoying, but either way we managed to pick up a decent game. But you could see both like the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the infuriating. This tank genuinely just angered me. I don't know, I've not come across a tank that's angered me so much, and that is because of the penetration. It just annoys me when you literally get YOLO'd by people who are genuinely something questionable going on in their brain as they come towards you, and then you can't punish them because they genuinely just played a tank that you can't pen from the front or pen from the side, and you have to get round the rear with premium ammunition to actually deal damage to them. And of course that isn't the easiest when you're in a tank that is, you know, fairly fast for a medium, 42 kilometers an hour, but not necessarily that quick enough to actually get around people. But there you go, 1,700 damage in this game with 1,068 assist, and yeah, I'm glad to be finished with the grind of the Chiri, because yeah, maybe we won't be revisiting this one until maybe we try and 3-mark it in the future. But hopefully that video gives you an indication as to where I'm heading with regards to my tech tree grind, as well as the Chiri and how you can play these weird, horrible tanks that sometimes are really annoying to play and still come out with good results like you saw in the first game. But other than that, hopefully you did enjoy it. Make sure to like, subscribe if you really did enjoy it, and if you want to see some more content, there'll be some on screen right now, including the playlist that will feature all of our gameplays that we've ever done on the channel, and I'll see you there. Goodbye.